In this video, I'll explain the difference between tables and views in SQL databases. This is a really important concept in relational databases, and it's also quite a common interview question. So let's look at tables. Tables are the main storage facility for relational databases to hold data. They're made up of columns which go down and rows which go across. In all relational databases, it's possible to set up relationships between the tables and the columns. So on to views. And these are select statements stored in the database. They're queried in much the same way as tables. So you do select star from table name, and you can also do select star from view name. I think a good way to explain a view is that they are kind of virtual tables. Another key concept is that views can return the data from multiple tables. So here I'm using SQL Server, and there's a long list of tables in the database. So let's look at purchasing.vendor. So the data is arranged into columns and also rows of results. SQL Server and most other relational databases also support views. So here, let's look at a particular view. It's called sales.v salesperson. So you can select data from this view. Here I'll do select top 1,000 rows. So the select statement is identical to that when you select data from a table. So you just select the view name rather than a table name. To all intents and purposes, it just looks like the results from a table. However, if we edit this view in design mode, we see that it's actually quite different from an actual table. So this view is actually retrieving data from several tables. In SQL Server you can edit views graphically, but I'm not really a major fan of this. So let's look at the actual SQL code for this view. And as you can see, it's made up of several table joins. So there are actually 10 table joins in this view. So what are the advantages of views? Why do we actually use them? So the first reason is that they simplify your SQL code. Instead of writing a long SQL query, you can just do a select star from the view name. It's even better if you actually use the view in more than one store procedure. You can also set security at the view level. In larger corporations, this is really useful. It avoids giving table level permissions to end users. Also, you can hide certain columns from views, so maybe the end users don't need access to salary details, addresses or passwords. In existing databases, it's also generally much easier to edit a view than it is for a table. If you want to change a table, it can be quite complicated if there's already data in it. So what are the disadvantages of views? Unlike tables, it's much more difficult to actually edit data through a view. This is actually software specific. SQL Server does allow limited editing of data through views. It may be different for the SQL database that you're using. Also, if you're working on very large projects, sometimes it can be quite difficult to tell if something is a table or a view. This is especially true if your organization doesn't have any coding naming conventions. Another issue is that views can suffer from performance problems. As we can see with this view here, it does actually do 10 table joins, so that can't be very good for performance. The actual specifics of performance issues in views are largely down to whatever software you're using. In SQL Server, remember, you can use the execution plan. So in SQL Server, you can view the execution plan of a view by going to select rather than editing or designing it. You select the rows, and then you click on this small button here, the execution plan. So if we run it, now we can actually see the execution plan. So if you find that your view is running quite slowly, then you can have a good look at the execution plan to see if anything in particular is taking a lot of time. This one's a particularly complicated one due to the number of table joins. The important thing is to look at the cost percentage. I believe this should add up to 100%, so you need to find somewhere that's using quite a lot. So this clustered index seek here is costing 40% of the entire execution time. So it's this procedure here that we need to look at if we're to make the view run more quickly. I hope that helps you understand the difference between tables and views. I used to use views a lot when I was using SQL Server, But then I switched to using MySQL, which didn't actually support views when I started using it. I've since started using views more these days, although they don't seem as popular as they were in the past. Let me know what you think about views in the comments below. Thanks for watching.